In this video, we're going to briefly talk about activation tracks. Now, the reason activation tracks are important is because you may have a lot of objects that you need inside of your cutscene, but you don't really want them to exist past the cutscene. You just want to show them off, and then you want to keep the gameplay how it is. So to implement an activation track, and the reason why I want one is this spaceship right here. If I were to play the game, first of all, our cutscene's not triggering, but if I were to play the game, well, it is, and I'll explain why in a second. You see how we can still see this spaceship in the background? We actually don't want that. Once we're done with the cutscene, we want to get rid of it. Now, we don't want to write a separate script to do that. That would just be cumbersome and clog up our assets. What I'm going to do is this activation track, I'm going to say, keep this object active for this length of time, and I'm going to stretch out a bar inside of our timeline. And then whenever it's outside of that bar, and therefore outside of the cutscene, it's not going to be active. So let's do that real quick. If I click down here, I right click, and I do activation track at the top, it'll add another track called active. Now, it doesn't know what object to keep active yet, so we need to define this. I'm going to drag my dropship start down underneath intro. Make sure you have the right dropship. Maybe you could relabel this, but I'm fine with it. So drag and drop this into the activation track slot. Okay, and you'll see nothing appears to have changed, right? Because while this is active, this is saying this object is active for this duration. We still see it the same. But if we hop into the game, what should happen is it should play our cutscene. And after that, we should no longer see it. Now, the reason we see it right now is because we're previewed in the timeline window. It's just kind of a fun thing. If you unlock this, actually, hold on. Let me try this again. Let me unlock that timeline window right there. Play. Oh, hey, we still see it. Interesting. Let's check one thing real quick. Let's go to our intro. Plan awake. This is why our cutscene is playing at the very beginning. I'm not sure if I want that yet or not, so we'll keep it for now. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stretch this dropship start just to make sure that it doesn't stay active after the cutscene. I'm just going to drag that one frame to the left. Right there. So we're actually keyframing at some point that this thing is no longer active. Because what's happening is it's reaching the end of the cutscene and say, oh, that's still active. I guess that's where it needs to be. But we're going to turn it off on that very, very last keyframe. Not even going to be noticeable. There. See at the very end. And then we can start playing the game. So let's try that one more time. Cool, and then we no longer see it. If you needed to move it further out of the way or disable it sooner, you could do that too. For me, I unlocked this timeline window. If you want to get that back, just click back on your playable director component or whatever object has that, and you can lock it again. I think when this is flying by right there, maybe I just want it to be active that amount of time. I think past that, we just don't need it. Just to be sure. Okay, great. Now everything is taken care of. We have our camera, we have our animated dropship. It's not getting in the way of the gameplay. We're turning it off when we need to. And now, or next, we can look at various ways to trigger this animation sequence.